What's the worst you can imagine happening to an expedition? Getting lost, running out of food, facing freezing temperatures? Whatever you're picturing, it's nowhere near as chilling as what truly happened to the Franklin expedition. What started with excitement and hope turned into one of the darkest, most unsettling mysteries in maritime history. A mystery that's haunted us for over 175 years. And when the evidence finally began to surface, the truth was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. You're watching Maritime Mysteries, the place where you dive into the unknown, where terrifying, bone-chilling stories still haunt us to this day. This story begins in England in 1845. The British Admiralty had big dreams. They were determined to find the Northwest Passage, a mythical route that would open new trade routes through the Arctic. The Franklin expedition was tasked with navigating this last unexplored area. The goal was to sail west through Lancaster Sound and, navigating through the ice and obstacles, find the fabled passage connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Success would establish Britain as the leader of Arctic exploration and secure a lucrative trade route. Franklin's mission would cover a distance of 1,040 miles, a monumental task in a region known for its treacherous ice fields and unpredictable weather. The man chosen to lead it was Sir John Franklin, a seasoned Arctic explorer. At 59 years old, Franklin was already considered a hero, known for his bravery, but also for some near-death experiences on earlier expeditions. Two ships were chosen for the mission, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. These weren't just any ships. They were powerful warships, specially built to survive the crushing ice of the Arctic. They had the latest technology, including steam engines and heating systems, and were stocked with enough food to last for years. They were prepared for everything, except the nightmare that awaited them. With a crew of 129 men, enough provisions to last for 3 years, and maps that promised to guide them through the Arctic, the Franklin expedition was full of hope. They sailed north into the icy seas, with no one suspecting it would be the last time the world would hear from them. The expedition was expected to last for several years, so when months passed without any news, there wasn't immediate concern. After all, the Arctic is a vast and hostile place. But by 1848, 3 years after Franklin had set sail, there was still no word. Panic started to set in, and the first search expeditions were launched to find Franklin and his men. What the searchers found, or didn't find, sent shockwaves across the world. No ships, no signs of life. Just endless ice and silence. It seemed as if Franklin and his entire crew had simply vanished into the Arctic void. Yet while the British searchers found nothing, the Inuit, the native people of the Arctic, had their own stories to tell. They spoke of encounters with strange white men, gaunt and starving, dragging lifeboats across the ice. According to the Inuit, these men seemed lost and desperate, some barely able to walk. But even more disturbing were the stories of abandoned ships and bones. At first, these stories were dismissed by European searchers. But as more details emerged, the chilling reality started to sink in. Then, in 1850, searchers made a grim discovery on Beechey Island. 3 graves, their wooden markers standing silent against the icy winds. The names read John Torrington, William Brain, and John Hartnell, 3 young crewmen who had died early in the expedition. But why? These men had been healthy and prepared, so what had gone so horribly wrong? More than a century later, modern scientists exhumed the bodies. The Arctic cold had preserved them almost perfectly, as if they had been frozen in time. The cause of death? Lead poisoning, likely from the very food cans meant to sustain them. Franklin's men were being poisoned with every meal. Lead poisoning didn't just weaken their bodies, it clouded their minds. Confusion, paranoia, and erratic behavior likely spread through the crew as the poison took hold. As the Arctic ice refused to break, their minds may have been as trapped as their ships. But lead poisoning alone wasn't the only cause of their demise. By April of 1848, the situation was desperate. The Erebus and Terror had been locked in the ice for almost 2 years, and there was no sign of escape. Franklin himself had died, leaving behind a crew of 105 starving, poisoned men. So they made the only choice left to them. They abandoned the ships. They believed they could walk to safety, but the harsh Arctic was merciless. What they thought was a short journey turned out to be a deadly march of over 1,000 miles. As supplies dwindled and exhaustion set in, hope gave way to something far darker. The Inuits' stories of cannibalism were horrifying, but the evidence proved they were right. In the frozen wilderness, faced with starvation, Franklin's men had resorted to the unthinkable. Bones found scattered across the Arctic bore the marks of knives, suggesting the crew had turned on each other in their final, desperate hours. It's hard to imagine the sheer terror and hopelessness that drove these men to such acts. But in the Arctic, where survival is the only law, even the most civilized can be pushed to the brink. Sir John Franklin, the man who led this doomed expedition, never lived to see the full horror that unfolded. He died early on, likely from natural causes. His body has never been found, adding yet another layer of mystery to this tragic tale. But what about the ships? For over a century, the Erebus and Terror were lost beneath the ice, until modern explorers discovered their resting places in 2014 and 2016. The ships were astonishingly well preserved, almost frozen in time, waiting for their secrets to be uncovered. Even with these discoveries, many questions remain. Why did Franklin's men fail to adapt to their environment when the Inuit had survived in the Arctic for generations? Could their fate have been different if rescue missions had started sooner? And most haunting of all, what truly happened in those final desperate days? The Franklin expedition set out to conquer the Northwest Passage, but instead they found a nightmare frozen in time. A nightmare that still chills us to this day. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey into one of history's darkest maritime mysteries. What do you think happened in the final moments of the Franklin expedition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more maritime mysteries.